Well, welcome to episode number 4 of CX Talk. It is November 2014, and we are fresh off of the 6th Secret Service Summit. John, congratulations on another great event.
It was spectacular. 550 people, up from, I think, just about 400 in 2013. We had to move to a bigger room, bigger conference, and people came from all over. Only less than 10% were from Northeast Ohio. I know we had people all over the country, and I know there was someone from Israel. Who else? Australia.
Australia, correct.
Canada. It was spectacular.
It really was, and the cool thing about it is having it right here in Cleveland. It was a great facility. I know I heard a lot of comments from people that go to a lot of conventions, and even some of our speakers have said that facility was just amazing.
Yeah, the Cleveland Convention Center, and it just, the thing that's unique about the Secret Service Summit is it's focused on just the customer experience and all the intangibles that go with it, internal class culture. But it's really the community that it's created. This is our 6th year in a row, and wow, it's growing. So many people come back every year, and everyone's there for the same purpose, to create better, stronger, world-class customer experience companies, and it just has this vibe unlike anything I've ever been at before.
Yeah, community is the correct word. It really is a community. I spoke to a couple of first-timers. We had a decent amount of first-time attendees this year. A lot of them come from companies we work with, but they rotate new people in to check it out every year. I spoke to some first-time attendees, and the feedback I got from them is that they were absolutely amazed at how educational and how motivational the summit is, and they all said it was the best conference they've ever attended.
Yeah, and the one other thing that no one can compare, and one of the reasons why we kept it in Cleveland, so as you've heard me say, Dave, we started this in 2009 to an audience of probably 180. And never, when I was on stage at this year's summit, I could not believe I was looking out to this huge auditorium. But in 2009, we started the first Secret Service Summit in Cleveland, and we planned on taking it, next year to Vegas, and the year after Orlando, and all the touristy sites. But the two things that made me decide to keep it and want to keep it in Cleveland was, one, I felt good about bringing business to Cleveland. I am proud of Cleveland. We've both been born and raised here. But the second one is, while our lineup every year is second to none, it's just incredible speakers and brand executives. We're able to borrow 30, 40, 50 people from our John Roberts spa locations, and they're the Secret Service concierge. And this is what everyone says, and the highest rated thing in the evaluations is the experience that the attendees receive there is just, it is mind-boggling. And we know we can never duplicate that anywhere else.
Right. And the other great thing about Cleveland is we always hear people are so pleasantly surprised with the experience they get throughout the entire city, not just the conference.
Yeah, we're able to have our social events through different parts of Cleveland, nightlife, and it's fun. So I'm sure most of you watching this were there and can echo our thoughts and our comments. But for those of you who weren't there, number one, why? What were you doing? And number two, we have the 2014 Secret Service Summit audio of nearly all the speakers. So you still have an opportunity to get that and still be a part of it and share it with your team.
That's a great segue. Let's talk about the speakers. First, I need to start with our own Denise Thompson, who acted as MC again for the event. There's Denise right there. She couldn't be with us in person today, so there's her bobblehead. And as usual, she did a fantastic job setting everything up, making sure everyone felt welcome, giving great insight on the speakers. I loved how she had the Secret Service on each speaker. She had a little tidbit about each speaker that people wouldn't necessarily know. So just another fantastic job.
And this year's theme was Experience It.
Yes.
And Denise, and you'll see by how our speakers went, that one of the changing things is experiencing it. People don't want to necessarily enjoy experiences, they want to be part of them. And so one of the things that Denise did so well is she asked survey polling questions
Yes.
of the audience, and that we were able to work into our presentations to tell what the audience thought versus, what, the experts think. So Denise did a great job there.
She did. And what we're going to do on today's episode is talk about all the speakers, give everyone a little recap of what happened at the summit. So we had to start with the first speaker on stage, the first speaker that Denise introduced, and that would be you, John DiJulius.
Yes. So this year's, as I start every Secret Service Summit, is the state of service and where it is in the past 12 months and where it could be going. And I really enjoy doing that. It's new material that I like to bring to the audience, especially those who've seen me. But, always start off with the executive sponsorship, and every world-class company, has executive sponsorship, and how Secret Service starts at the top. And so we showed a great video of people like Walt Disney and Tony Hsieh and Howard Schultz and Jeff Bezos, all the icons. Just talking about customer experience, where you can never see or read an interview of them where they don't bring it back to the customer experience. Right. And then, really talking about how the customer experience is your new marketing now. It's the new marketing, especially with social media and everyone looking at Yelp reviews. And it showed that, to no surprise, that word of mouth is still the #1 reason why people do business. But second to that, way ahead of advertising and all the other traditional marketing tools, is online reviews. And what they hear online, which to me is almost combined, because if I'm online, if I'm on Facebook or Twitter or whatever tool we use, that's word of mouth again.
Right.
So to me, it's almost combined. So the power and just really interesting statistical things that Facebook and social media is a 24/7 tool of people having conversations, millions of people. And if Facebook was a country, it'd be the 8th largest country in the world, just ahead of Japan. I mean, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah,
so
I had not heard that stat before until you mentioned on stage. That's pretty amazing.
So you were listening to me.
I was listening to you, yes.
Good. There is a test here. And already, I don't know how old social media really is. 5 years, I don't even know, but it's in its infancy. And just in that short amount of time, there is an old paradigm already that social media is primarily a marketing tool for companies.
Right.
And that's not true. It is a stop thinking campaigns and start thinking conversations. Basically, social media is your company's customer experience exposed 24/7, like 60 minutes, good or bad. So customer experience could be your worst marketing. And so I shared a bunch of bad stories of things gone wrong, and how social media has just really hurt the business. So some other things I shared here was companies with lousy service can no longer hide; they're being exposed, and that we're in the customer perception business, and what your online reviews say are what you are. So we really have to focus. Companies really have to focus on the customer experience. They have to and not be caught up with all the noise. And the noise is what companies, the price cutters and the discounts and people who are giving our industries bad names, and there's nothing you can do about those. And you gotta compete on the experience, and that's why I showed a little quote from Jeff Bezos saying, Amazon obsesses over the customer experience, over the customer, and when given the choice to obsessing over competition and what they're doing, or obsessing over the customer, they always choose to obsess over the customer.
Right.
And I love that. No one is going to beat Amazon to something. They're not going to outthink them. And if you really worry about the customer, all the noise happening in your industry is not going to affect you that much. So, gave some good examples with that, and focused on, that you need a customer experience leader. It's the fastest growing C-suite position And you know, who's losing sleep at night over your customer, and it can't be the CEO or the COO. And then just you know, kicked it off with the experience at theme. So that was my state of service.
Yeah, and it was a great kickoff. It really got people thinking about their own businesses, but service overall.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. All right, so the next speaker after me was TJ Schier, who I was really excited about. TJ is the ultimate practitioner. He owns a chain of restaurants called Which Sandwiches. And you know, he reminds me of me, where he's just built these amazing businesses, and now he's been, you know, asked to speak all over about his systems, his customer service. He's ended up writing a few books, and has started a consulting business. So TJ was my sleeper. I think when you looked at our lineup, a lot of big names, Jim Gilmore and Rory Vaden and Tim Gard, but I don't think a lot of people, you know, from the outside knew of TJ, and I think he really wowed them.
He really did. He definitely did. I had the opportunity to chat with TJ on the phone back in, I think it was June or July, as we were preparing for this year's summit and doing interviews with our speakers. And I was really looking forward to meeting him in person and hearing him, because I knew that he really has some great ideas. And he came through. He delivered. Our audience wanted to hear more of him. I think the only complaint I heard about him is that he didn't have enough time speaking. Yeah,
a lot of people from all industries wanted to hear more of him.
And the other thing that's great is, while he focuses on restaurants specifically, just like any industry, anyone who has a customer can really benefit from what he has to say. It's not, even though he focuses on the restaurant, he really can help any business out there with what he's talking about. So listening to TJ, and I was really looking forward to him, as I said, a couple of things stuck with me that I thought was really impressive and important. He talked about his tactics to create, to operationalize service, really focus on that. Kind of like when we talk about how we systematize it, he operationalizes it. So similarities between what we do on that. The other thing that's stuck with me that he mentioned was this. When he is looking for talent, when he calls it his selection process, focusing on their DNA, scouting them, making sure we're asking effective questions. But one of the things that he encourages restaurants to do, and he does at his own restaurants, the Which in the Dallas area, is this. He goes and has someone secret shop these potential employees at their place of work. Most employees are coming to them from another restaurant or another business that's customer facing. So they go in and they place an order, and they see what they look like, whether it's at a bank or at a restaurant. If they are not currently employed, he has them come into his restaurant and secret shop them. And then he wants to meet with them and get the feedback of what they think, to see what they're looking for and what they felt out of the experience, what they thought could be better, what they thought was missing. So I thought that was two great methods to make sure you're hiring the right people. And we know that hiring the right people and training the right way is really important to get things going in the service world.
Yeah, no, TJ, he just gave such practical advice, and you know, everyone has hiring challenges, and the restaurant business could be as high as 300% turnover.
Right.
And you know, you listen to someone like that has figured it out. That could be applied to any business.
Absolutely. Let's talk about our next speaker. And one thing I forgot to mention at the top of the show is this. One of the great things about the Secret Service Summit is the workbook. So when you attend the summit, you get the workbook. It highlights every speaker. But what's really cool about the summit is every speaker gives to us an action plan, so that attendees not only have a place to take notes, but can look for and listen for what's most important in the mind of the speaker as they're going through their presentation. So the action plan allows you to take notes, but also allows the presenter to give you some things that they think are most important from what they presented.
Yeah.
The next speaker after TJ was Jim Gilmore. Now, Jim, I think, was probably going into this the highlight of the summit as far as speakers, other than you, of course, Jim.
Yeah.
Because we gave away his book to all attendees.
Yep, everyone got the experience economy that attended the Secret Service Summit.
He's probably, of all our speakers, one of the most well-known.
Yep.
From a business standpoint. And I have to say that he got up on stage and he delivered.
He did.
He did not
His book was, experience economy rank every what is it? Work is theater and every business is stage. Has been called one of the best 100 books of all time. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Yes, I know they have one new edition out, but the book's been around for over 10 years and is still so relevant in today's business world. So speaks volumes to what he has written, what he has done. I also find it interesting, I didn't know this until I got a chance to speak to him in person. He's also a professor at the University of Virginia in the Darden School of Business, which is a well-known business school. He's based here in Cleveland, but he goes down and teaches his classes down there, so he is a wealth of knowledge.
I've been trying to get Jim to keynote at the Secret Service Summit since our first year, and he's just so busy speaking, pulled in so many directions, works with so many outstanding clients. It finally worked this year, and I was excited. Jim Gilmore I saw speak 15 years ago, and at least, and it was probably before I was out there speaking, you know, across all industries, but it really changed my mindset. He was before his time. I mean, it seems like people are just now getting on the experience bandwagon. Jim, you know, wrote The Experience Economy, you know, 15 years ago, and one of the best 100 business books ever written, and it really made me look at everything differently. And he just looks at everything differently, and that's why he's so exciting and insightful to listen to. And he just anything he talked about. All right, he shows a picture of a parking lot. This is a parking lot.
Right.
Why does it have to be just a parking lot? What can we do here to make it an experience? And he starts giving you ideas. You're like, God, why didn't I think of that? Right. So Jim, you know, did you know, what he brought was the typical progression of the economic value, of how, you know, it went from commodities and then to goods to services to experiences, and now he calls it transformations. And, you know, this is one of the reasons why, you know, we themed it Experience It, because of Jim. And one of the things he talked about here and gave great examples that I've always looked at in my businesses is Jim says, what if you charge admission for people that walk in your door? What would you do differently? What if you charge $10, $15, $20, $50, $100? Come on. Well, what if you did? So, you know, back to my salons 15 years ago, I'm like, oh my God, we'd have to have entertainment up front. We'd have to have this going. We'd have to be putting on shows.
Right.
And then, you know, you know, you go through the whole exercise. He says, okay, now whether you do or you don't, now you have 10 of those things you should be doing anyway.
Right.
You know, and people won't, and it's like, it's just like such a revelation. So he really talked about that and the 5 imperatives of creating experience, customizing it, direct workers to act, you know, to be on stage, to you know, structure the drama was his 3rd imperative, to have everything themed, which, you know, so many great customers, and charge admission, which goes back to that. You know, he just gave so much great relative information to look at things differently, and you know, it really has helped me in my personal business. You know, just revisit, why does it have to be? Why does it have to be like that? One of the examples I gave on the second day that that really is what Jim talks about is you know, you call Zappos, and you got to wait on hold. Every company, you know, have that. That's just, you know, part of doing business. But what Zappos does, and you heard this, is they, you know, say press 2 if you want to hear the joke of the day.
Yes.
Press 2, I get to hear a joke of the day, and all of a sudden finally someone picks up, and I don't realize that, you know, I was on hold for 45 seconds or whatever it would be. But just changing every mundane task to an experience. My on hold, you know, had a chuckle today. I went around and used that joke for the next couple days and got a couple laughs from it. So, yeah, Jim delivered, I think, and really set the tone for that whole experience.
Definitely did. Another cool experience happened right after Jim, and that's when we went to our first break. And so here's what happened, if you were not there. That morning of day number 1, we introduced the cover of the new book, The Customer Service Revolution, which will be coming out in January of 2000.
January 6th, my new book.
But what was cool, and what was a surprise to our attendees, was we were able to work with the publisher and actually have books available for purchase for attendees of this year's Secret Service Summit. So we announced that as a surprise, going into break number 1, that not only did we have the books available for attendees, but that John would be out there as well signing them. And as expected, your lines were huge. People wanted to get the book. They were excited to get the book, and the opportunity to have it signed by you was thrilling for a lot of people.
Well, I think it's because they have a little bit more value right now, because until January 6th, no one can get these unless you attended the summit. So they might be able to sell them for a few dollars more. But no, it was exciting to see the reaction. I wrote the book as, the last book was What's the Secret, and our methodology, the 10 Commandments. And this is really, that was the how. What the Customer Service Revolution book is about is how many of our clients have taken those things and done them. But I wrote it also, What's the Secret is not for employees. And I wanted to write this for managers and employees. Simple ahas to get people bought around, oh, this is why you want us to, believe in the service vision, or the nevers and always, or the day in the life of a customer. So that's what I was most excited about, is that you can give it to, frontline, middle, supervisors, whatever it may be, and it really gets them excited about what the companies are doing.
Absolutely.
All right, so now we're heading to the afternoon of day 1 of the Secret Service Summit, and the next speaker was Dave Murray, Senior Customer Service Consultant with the DiJulius Group, and people really enjoyed this because you work with so many of these great companies every day, and you get your hands in. I have the easy job. I always say I come out, I get them all excited, help them think of some great ideas, and then you have to come in and make them come to life and create the training materials, the implementation and execution. And you do a great job of that, but people really they rolled up their sleeves and got some really good ideas from you.
Well, thanks. The interesting thing about putting together my presentation is the hardest part of it is just trying to narrow down what I'm going to talk about. I only have 40 minutes to an hour typically, and I have so many great ideas from the companies we work with that I have to narrow it all down and make it succinct so I can get as much information out there without overwhelming people. So that's really the challenge that I have when I put this together. But I have to thank our clients, because I had so much great information this year.
They definitely make you look good.
They sure do. They sure do. So I was able to talk about a lot of things this year, and I focused it primarily on training. So I talked about some, the takeaways that I wanted people to get were some easy to do, simple to put together, low-tech methods of training, like the I CAN cards from the maids, or the...
Which is ESAT, Employee Service Aptitude Test, where, you flip over, do it in a huddle, but it's like a stack of cards.
It's like a deck of cards. It's like flashcards, like we all learned.
They have a scenario.
Right.
If you're there to clean the house, and the woman of the house asks you if you can clean out the kitchen, the refrigerator, what do? It's not part of the what you're supposed to do. So those are good scenarios that they have to think through, answer, and see if you like their answer. Or, so it's a great concept.
Yeah, they are things that happen every day. It's making sure that our employees are prepared to handle those questions. I talked about some high-tech training methods, such as the great things that Advanced Financial has done in their learning development platform, their department there, where they've actually created animated videos on what the store should look like from a customer perspective, where we should park. And while some of those things they talk about people might say, well, that's kind of simple, everyday things that we should know, but people don't know that. And actually going through the process of moving things with your mouse and going through this game, you're making sure that your folks know that. Your front of the line people know what they should be doing when it comes to the customer experience. So some great examples. I also had an opportunity to talk about commandment number 2, world-class internal culture, and making sure people understood that you can't just train your folks and throw them out there and expect them to deliver this great service unless you're treating them with great service as well as your internal customers. And I always see a lot of ahas when I talk about that. Sometimes people forget that. So I always like to go in and mention that too, because it's such an important piece of this.
Yeah, no, it was all great. I love the Anytime Fitness examples that other companies have adopted to certify your employees, that they in fact know the service vision, know the nevers and always, know the experience, and they're passing a test. And quite frankly, nervous. that they're passing a test as much as they're passing the test of, knowing how to cook burgers or, ring someone out or take an order or whatever that may be. I think that was really a home run.
Well, it's a great example, as is RPM Pizza, Domino's Pizza. They have their Credo Card Challenge, and it basically certifies you to go on the front lines and deal with the customers. If you don't pass it the first time, you have to study and pass it again. You get another opportunity. If you don't pass it the second time, you go back to training.
Right.
I mean, you're missing a day of work, or you're going back and sitting in a room and relearning these things that you should have picked up on the first time. So, they put their money where their mouth is. You have to be certified in this. You have to prove you know it to go deal with their customers.
Yeah, a lot of great examples.
You just mentioned Anytime Fitness, and that's a great segue to our next speaker, because after me was Chuck Runyon. And he is from Anytime Fitness. He is the founder and the CEO. Anytime Fitness, for those of you that don't know, was voted in 2014 as the #1 franchise by Entrepreneur Magazine.
Yeah, selected.
Mm-hmm. And they've also been voted time and time again a best place to work.
#1 place to work in the Twin Cities, 3 years in a row.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's a lot of big companies. 3M is out there. Target is headquartered out there. They have 2,800 locations in 27 countries.
So this year, Chuck spoke for us, and he had some great insight from the leader standpoint.
Yeah, and he was the other, I think, sleeper.
Yes.
Because he's not a professional speaker. We love having brand executives besides our Jim Gilmores and Rory Vadens, who are authorities and best-selling authors. Chuck was there just to talk about how you create a world-class employee experience. And I've mentioned this before. I work with them. I go out to their conferences, and there's over 2,000 people walking around with an Anytime Fitness tattoo.
Right.
It's crazy. 2,000 people. Members, employees, franchisees, and just this sea of purple. And so, Chuck, I thought his presentation was amazing, spot on. He talks about the 6 essential questions you need to ask about your company's culture. 1, how are you recognizing great customer service in the company and celebrating? Gave some great examples how they do it. How are you giving your employees a voice to be heard? How do you infuse fun into your culture? And God, they are masters at fun. Really makes me question and think about how I need to do it better. What does your company stand for? And does everyone know it? The other 2, the last 2, is how do you invest in your employees' personal and professional growth? And do you have a culture of wellness? So all of this was just phenomenal things. One of my favorite things he talked about, and their color is purple, and so everything's a P, right? And he has 4 things, and you have to live at the intersection of here. And it's purpose, people, profits, and play. And it was just, the return on emotional investment. One thing I didn't like that he said, that I really liked, but it bothered me, that Anytime Fitness has promised to their employees and their franchisees is that there will be nothing important in your life that you should have to miss because of work.
Right.
And I love that, but the more I thought about that, it's the way I feel and definitely the way I live. And, I said, God, my employees know that, and all my companies. And I said, do they? Have I made that clear? And I thought, I'd be really ticked off if you or someone told me that you missed your daughter's such and such last night because you had to get, something done. I'd be like, well, what are you thinking? And I thought, have I articulated that? And I just thought that was such a really cool thing to make sure your employees know. It might be in your head, but if they don't know it, they made it. So Chuck was a home run. He was by far one of the favorite speakers. And again, I love speakers that, over-deliver when you don't know, and I think that's a really cool thing about the summit. The Gilmores and the Rory Vadens are going to deliver, but it's the TJ Schiers and the Chuck Runyons that, you think, oh, I'm probably going to go out and, catch up on email or something, and you don't leave.
Right.
You don't end up leaving. Well, good. And then our final speaker of the day was our good friend Rory Vaden, who spoke 2 years ago, had the New York Times and Wall Street Journal best-selling book, Taking the Stairs.
Yes.
And he was phenomenal. One of our highest rated speaker in 2012 and one of our highest rated speakers of all time. And he had just wrote a new book that is also coming out in January called Procrastination on Purpose, and which is an odd title. And our summit audience was the first to hear this new presentation based off his new, for sure, best-selling book. But I was really interested. Procrastinating on purpose, you know, what did that mean?
Yeah, it was very interesting, and it's important to all of us because what he's speaking about is time, right? So many of us are always looking for the next best time management tool, the next best app to help us manage our to-do list. And what Rory really presented is that the paradigm of how we organize ourselves is changing. You brought up paradigms earlier about how social media has changed it, and what he's bringing up in this book is that the paradigm of how we organize ourselves is changing based on what the best thinkers out there are doing. And it's really quite simple when you think about it. The old paradigm is we always just base things on importance versus urgency. How important is this and how quickly do I have to get it done so I don't get in trouble, I don't miss a deadline, whatever the case may be. What he's adding to this is simply the word significance. How significant is this to me today? How significant is it going to be a week from now? When's it going to fall off the radar? Can it just go away? So I'm really looking forward to reading his book because I want to learn more about this, but he gave us so much to take just from his presentation because it is such an important tool for everyone, and he's really, I think, mastered a way to effectively manage our time.
And it is. It's about, you know, getting more time in the day. And while that is impossible, it's not through the way Rory teaches it about, you know, being able to delegate and being able to say no to a lot of things. Because we can drown in opportunity.
And automate. I'll bet you a lot of people went off that night and went back to their hotel rooms, pulled out their laptops and started automating some of their payments and some other things that they manually do on a regular monthly basis that they shouldn't do anymore. Right,
and he really gave a great example of where, you know, I do this myself. I'm the only one to do it right, and I don't want to pay someone. And then, you know, it makes you look at what are you worth an hour? Well, you know, I bring in $200 or $250 an hour when I'm meeting with clients or when I'm, you know, cutting hair or whatever it is that we do. Well, so you're taking 2 hours to do this, licking the stamps and envelopes, and, you know, you could be paying someone $10, $12 an hour, where you could be out generating your $250. It just really makes you, you know, think.
Absolutely. Okay, so we're going to move on to day 2 of the summit. And day 2 started with something I think has become kind of a tradition at the summit. It's your workshop, right? You always prepare a roll-up-your-sleeves type of workshop that people can really learn one of our methodologies they can take back with them, try and get things going at their own office. And it was really cool this year because the day before we had announced the book was available for purchase, and your workshop this year was really based around some of the new findings from the book.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, it wasn't just a keynote. People bring management teams, buy several tables. One company bought, you know, 10 tables, brought 65 people. So we want to give them time to hear the best practice and work on it themselves. So it was based on the customer service revolution, and we talked about what a customer service revolution really is, and you know, how it can be brought to every company's world. And the first thing we talked about is service aptitude, and we went back to the examples that you really gave with testing. And so the first exercise is I challenged the groups there to how can they certify their employees on the customer experience side through employee service aptitude test or the advanced financial certification gaining on site. So people worked on that, and I thought that was really effective. And then we came back and worked on, you know, really making price irrelevant and how we can do that, and how they can be the brand that their customers can't live without. So one of the exercises that I really like doing, and I invite all of you to do with your team, is asking everyone there, what are the brands you can't live without that if we were able to take one brand away that you can never do business with again, who would that be? And you get the Apple and Amazons and Costco and Starbucks and Chick-fil-A. And, all right, great. Why? What do they do that you just would be upset if you were never allowed to do business with again? And then all right, how can we do that? And you do this with your frontline employees. They all have a brand or two. It might be a lower scale brand, but they all have a brand. So I thought that was really good. And then the biggest disconnect and the biggest cause for customer disloyalty is employee apathy. Right. And employee apathy creates customer apathy. And nothing destroys and stops a company's growth than customer apathy. So that's where we got into the day in the life of a customer video, and we showed some great videos of our different clients, and then we had everyone work on their own, and then we showed them like the John Roberts Spa one where we can't afford these $20,000, $50,000 videos, so ours is a slideshow of pictures of a day in the life of a woman, and how we come to the rescue. So, people created that. And what are some circumstances that they need so every employee can have more compassion and empathy of the person they're about to serve. So a lot of that, we talked about examples of the customer service vision statements, and then we just ended with how we can make everyone on stage. Right? Everyone, the cooks, right? And in restaurants, all restaurants' kitchens were in the back. Now they're bringing them out front where they cook on stage. Think of the professionalism.
RPM calls it pizza theater.
Pizza theater, exactly. But we can do that with our call centers, right? Where I can dial in and see who I'm talking to. And think about it, if everyone in the call center was, being Skyped, we dress a little differently. Right. We'd be on stage. We'd be, we wouldn't be, on the phone saying, "Hey, get me, the pepperoni," and we'd be focused, right. and we'd be smiling. We'd be seeing the smiles. All the way to, I think all our conference calls and meetings, whether it be internal or with our clients, need to be on Skype today. Because I'm seeing who this person is, and I'm building a relationship, and which led us to what you do so well is contact centers are dead. Customer service call centers are dead. Change them. They should be relationship centers. Right. And gave some great examples. Would you do you want to tell someone you work in a contact center or a call center, or do you want to say I work in a relationship center, and know that you're the ambassador of your customers, and you represent the voice of the customers. So that was pretty much it, with ending with the 10 steps to create a customer service revolution. That was great. I heard a lot of excellent feedback about your workshop. Well, good. Thank you. And then we went into the customer experience executive panel. Again, fastest growing position in corporate America is the customer experience executive. And we were able to put on stage probably the top 6 customer experience executives in the world. Right? And we had someone from Chick-fil-A and Domino's and Advanced Financial and the Maids and Anytime Fitness and Ashley Furniture. And these people, either have the, customer experience titles, and, this is what they're doing. And so you facilitated that. Yes, I did. I got to moderate that, and it was fantastic. We asked a couple of questions about where they were from as far as their careers, how they got to the position they're in today, just so people got a chance to know a little more about them professionally and how. And they all didn't start off as customer experience executives. No, not at all. Some would start in marketing, some would start in sales, and a lot of them kind of worked their way into this role for one reason or another. And then we went in and asked specific questions of specific people at specific companies to hear what they do so well. For example, Chick-fil-A. We all know that Chick-fil-A does such an excellent job of providing that consistency. Whether you go to a restaurant in Cleveland, Ohio, or in Atlanta, Georgia, you always feel that level of consistency. And when you take a step back and realize they're hiring the same teenagers that other quick service restaurants are hiring as well. So we asked Ryan Mannion from Chick-fil-A, how do you do that? How do you provide that consistency, especially to this age of employee that you're typically hiring? And his answer was fascinating. He said it all starts with our leadership. They focus on leadership, and the leaders in those individual restaurants focus on their employees, make sure they know how important they are, not only to
the restaurant itself, but to the guest experience, and that's where their focus begins. So some really enlightening things. I think people in attendance at the summit heard information that they were able to take back, and I hope start utilizing right away from these 6 folks, because they all gave us some fantastic tidbits on how they've gotten to where they are and how they've gotten their companies to where their companies are today.
And I think the big takeaway wasn't so much the best practice of what they do, is how they got to these positions and how their companies created these positions and evolved. So the one thing we want to make sure we're cautious, we don't think everyone should run out and create a CXE position and hire someone. You got to do it when it's right. And so sometimes, it's internal, and, you see who's best fit to be your customer experience champion, and you give it part of their job. And then, it keeps on growing, and we share job responsibilities there, and all these people started off sharing it, wearing multiple hats, to eventually justifying it, and through size and growth, they were able to now become, full-time customer experience executive. The challenge with this is that these people, and anyone that's promoting customer experience executives in their company, there's no place to train them.
Right.
And so once you got the right person, how do you train them? So that's why the DiJulius Group launched at the summit our announcement that we've created the CXE Academy, which is the Customer Experience Executive Academy, that 2015 is our first class. And people are still signing up. We have a few spots left, but after this, the panel, they rushed out and filled up. And we only take a certain number, and every quarter they come to Cleveland for 2.5 days, and they learn our methodology 4 times in 2015. And everyone who starts in March, finishes the year, and we don't take anyone after March until 2016. And they learn each part of the customer experience. And this isn't contact center leaders. This is, that they're managing the entire company. And each, service vision and world-class internal culture, and nevers and always, and zero risk, and all these things, which is going to be taught by primarily me and Dave. And they are going to be your customer experience executive, and they'll have the tools to help run your company and report, to the CEO and president.
It's so needed, because it's interesting if you think about it. Companies that are hiring someone to be in charge of their experience right now have nowhere to go, and they're really doing it how a lot of companies hire their frontline staff. They make assumptions that you're a good person, you have good service aptitude, now go deliver it, go do it. And so there really needs to be a place for these folks to learn. I also really like that it's executive, because while we know that it's important to have someone high up leading this charge, not every company can do that. So it may be a manager position or a director position. It's not necessarily an officer of the company right away. So it's open to everybody, no matter what your level is in the organization. If you are overseeing the experience in your organization, you should attend this class.
Yeah, the course. And again, it's 4 times in 2016 every quarter, and then I think on the opposite month or so, we have a call with them.
Yeah, virtual training.
Homework. They got to pass. They get licensed. This is going to be the fastest growing thing that DiJulius Group has to offer, because this is just booming, and there's not too many places, if any, other than the Customer Experience Executive Academy that these senior level people can get trained and certified.
Right.
All right, down the home stretch here. Our next speaker was probably the highlight, without a doubt. I heard he was going to be, but I didn't think he was going to be this good. Tim is is a tears in your eyes funny speaker who teaches people how to be more resilient and resourceful, and coaches business on how to enhance productivity and employee enthusiasm. He is in the Speaker Hall of Fame, and is just a great guy. But this is really the first time I've ever seen him speak live. What did you think about Tim Gard?
Well, I thought he was fantastic. Again, he was one of the speakers that I got to interview over the summer in preparation for this summit, and we aired that interview on one of your blogs. And he just had me laughing. Even the conversation we had before and after the interview, I was laughing hysterically. So I was really looking forward to seeing Tim because I knew he was going to be funny. I was also looking to see how the audience would react to him, and he delivered. He was hilarious, and he gets his message across using humor. And his message is simply that: use humor in everyday work. And when there's a situation that is not going your way, find a way to work humor into that. And really what he talks about, his speech is talking about all these scenarios that we all go through, whether it's missing a flight, them not having what you want at the restaurant, whatever the case may be, how we can interject humor, not only for ourselves, but for the person who's providing that service as well, to make it an all-around better experience. So he was hilarious. He got his point across. He also has a lot of items that he's created himself. Props that he gives away.
Yeah.
For sale on his website, and people were
throwing
their hands up to get those. Yeah, they really want. I'm sure a lot of people visit his website to check those out.
He got a standing ovation.
Yes.
In a tough spot. This is the middle of the second day, and we just have had so many great speakers with a lot of content where people start getting, to be brain dead, and he just revitalized them. And the thing I really like about Tim that I'm picky about is, I want to take backable stuff. And, I like to laugh and enjoy it, is there anything I could write down? And people had notes and notes and notes about how they can make their job more fun. And like you said, just the typical situations that arise on both sides. Us as consumers, and the hotel asks you for, your ID and another form of ID and credit card and all these, and the policy, can't do that policy, can't do that. And he whips out this stuff. Well, I have a policy handbook here too. And it says right here, and it is just so funny. And he disarms people in a lot of ways. He does. He confuses people in a lot of ways. But it also makes us think about, are we guilty of that? So Tim just brings such a unique perspective to it. He was a hoot.
Yeah, he was fantastic. And then after Tim, we got to introduce Robert Richman. Now, Robert, I know a lot of people were looking forward to because of who he is and what he has done, right? He is originally from Zappos. As a matter of fact, he founded Zappos Insights, which is a great tool for a lot of people in the customer service industry. I know a lot of people are members of that. And he also has a book coming out called The Culture Blueprint. So he is all about internal culture. And I know a lot of people in our audience were really interested in hearing what he had to say.
Yeah, I mean, who better than the person that, has worked side by side with Tony Hsieh in what is the modern day, probably the best culture and customer service around. And Robert came out and really talked about making your culture on purpose, not by accident, making it fun, and just gave so many good, simple ideas, like Chuck Runyon from Anytime Fitness, of how you need to build your culture and rally people around, the vision, and, revise your hiring process to include story-based questions, to determine if someone is genuinely loves to be of service, regardless of their experience. I think that's really important. Hire for attitude, not aptitude. And, this person, the A candidate, could have years of what we do, but not love to work with people, or, not be the friendliest guy. Where this person has, zero or very little experience, but has a great attitude and loves taking care of people. Right. I can teach that. Sure. We can't teach, someone. So he was just, he was great. He shared so many good things. He also shared, his new book, The Culture Blueprint, with everyone in the audience. So again, if you missed the Secret Service Summit, you missed a lot of cool stuff.
One of the first things you said about him really stood out to me when you mentioned it. Having your culture be on purpose. Because sometimes I wonder, you hear about these great cultures out there at some of these companies, you wonder how much of that just happened by accident. Right. Because there was one great leader who kind of set the tone and everyone followed, but do they really have that as part of their plan? Right. So that's a great point. And it also tells us that it's achievable for all of us too. We can all create those cultures, just have to put some work into it.
Yeah, he was a great resource. And then the last two things we had at the summit was probably, the highlight where we got a lot of, tears and emotional roller coaster. We launched the Believe in Dreams Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization for underprivileged kids that don't suffer from any medical illnesses or conditions, but have either grown up in poor circumstances or have had tragedy in their life that has changed their circumstances. And so we were, launched that and to just a great reception. Showed some examples of what we've done in the past year of kids' stories and how we made their dreams come true. And the shocking thing that when you see these videos and interview the kids, none of them asked to go to Disney. None of them asked for trips. They asked for a new mattress, shoes, to attend a professional sporting event. And it's really humbling that, we live in our bubble, a lot of us, and don't realize. So it was really exciting to kick this off, this foundation, in front of 550 people.
It was. It was definitely a highlight for a lot of folks. I know a lot of people were moved. I know that Nicole did a fantastic job from our office. Kelly from Believe in Dreams did a fantastic job presenting this out to everybody that was able to attend the summit.
We had a surprise. You want to talk about what that surprise was for...
We did have a surprise. We were able to actually award a dream on stage. So we had some kids that were going through the process with Believe in Dreams come to the summit in the afternoon and come up on stage. And one of the boys, Willie, really wants to go to an Indians game, and his favorite player is Nick Swisher. So we were able to have Slider, the Indians' famous mascot, come over from down the street at Progressive Field. He stopped by and really charged the crowd as he came onto the stage and got everyone into it. And he had a couple surprises for Willie. First, he had a jersey that was autographed, an Indians jersey autographed by Nick Swisher that he gave to Willie. And then he also had a video. So he pointed to the screen and he had a video of Nick Swisher, who could not be there that week, of Nick inviting Willie to come down to attend a game, come on the field before the game, meet him and the rest of the team, get some autographs, and kind of hang out during batting practice, and then stay for a game. It was really incredible. It was moving. Willie was in tears.
This 16, 17-year-old kid is just bawling on stage, and everyone's bawling.
Yeah, he was so psyched, so happy. Those were tears of joy that he was going to be able to
it was special. And the generosity, we raised $15,000 from the audience there. So we're going to be able to help a lot more kids in the future change their life. So I was really excited. Believe in Dreams Foundation.
Yeah, it was great. And then to close out the 2014 Secret Service Summit, we had Matt Harden. Now, I remember when you first saw this video, you came back to the office and we were in our conference room and you showed it to us just to get our opinions on it. And there's just something about it. It's so moving. I remember going home to tell my kids, I called them to the kitchen and said, you got to check out this video, and they all loved it. It was so cool. So to be able to hear Matt tell his story in person was a really unique opportunity.
Yeah, if you can't, go to YouTube and type in "Where the Hell is Matt?" 2012, and you'll see the video. Matt comes out and he just tells a great story about how people, he just went around the world trying to dance in different monuments by himself, just wanted to collect, say I danced in front of the Eiffel Tower. And while he's doing this, people started joining in. And just the whole evolution of how this video that you see at the end is him dancing in every different country, every different city, dangerous countries. And you got hundreds of people dancing with him. And, Matt, on purpose, doesn't have a point. He doesn't want to have a point to the story.
Right.
He wants you to take you away. And I never understood why I like this video, but it makes me feel good when I watch it because people are enjoying and having. But my takeaway, and it was different from everyone else's, is, you know, you're trying to create a revolution in your company and you're worried about getting 16 or 100 locations or departments or hundreds, thousands of employees to buy into this. This guy goes to different countries and gets everyone to cooperate when you make it fun and part of, and that's really why we came up with Experience It. And he ended the show with everyone there dancing on stage. And it was just, what a way to end.
It really was. So John, one last important announcement that came from the 2014 Secret Service Summit is about the 2015 Summit. We are moving the date. We heard from some of our friends in the southern states that they weren't so sure about coming to Cleveland in November. And November in Cleveland is a bit of a crapshoot. You get some really nice days, but you might get some snow. So we tend to agree. So next year we are moving the summit to September 29th and 30th so people can enjoy the lovely falls that we have here in Cleveland, Ohio.
And there's very few places that rival a Cleveland fall. It's beautiful. It could be, you know, 70-degree weather and just it's just great. So yep, the 2015 summit is September 29th and 30th. We sold tickets, opened our sales at the summit. We're only having them until December 31st, and this is the lowest price they will be. Then we stop selling them until I think spring, and every year has sold out. So I would try to buy them before you know, this registration ends. When we reopen tickets in the spring, they will be a few $100s more than what they are going for right now. And if you missed this year's summit, you have an opportunity to take advantage and get the audio of the most of the speakers that spoke at the 2014 summit.
All right. Well, thank you, John. That's going to do it for episode number 4. Thanks for watching today, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
CX Talk is brought to you by the DiJulius Group. Follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter, and visit our YouTube channel monthly for more entertainment and education with John and Dave on CX Talk.